I want to explain why using simply braking impulse doesn't make much sense and is not really helpful when discussing a movement that involves a horizontal initial momentum that's redirected upward. And secondly, I want to describe how braking impulse and saying that you need to increase it, that's what leads to increased performance, that doesn't also make too much sense. Now, firstly, what even is braking impulse supposed to mean? We all remember how the run coaches are trying to eliminate braking forces when you have top speed sprinting, when that's physically impossible. In that case, braking forces and braking impulse are referring to forces being directed backwards. But in a stationary counter-movement jump research, braking impulse is often described when you generate impulse when the center mass is going down. So which direction is it? Are you talking about braking in the horizontal direction or the vertical direction? And if you're going to say it doesn't matter, well, I have findings that says otherwise, and it's in my paper. I'll link the paper in the show notes below, but basically it's about how each leg only plays different roles in generating different impulses in different directions. The context is completely different. You generate vertical braking impulse only for the first short phase of your ground contact, and it's literally all done by a plant leg, the first leg to contact the ground. Horizontal braking impulse is being generated throughout the entire movement. So how can you mix them up when there's clearly very different context in space and also how those impulses are being generated in time? The braking impulse sets up for the propulsive impulse, which occurs after, and I'm using those phrasing in a simple stationary counter-movement jump context. In the case of a two-foot running jump, I like to use the subphase description of the center of mass descent and ascent phase, because using braking and propulsive phases is just not helpful in a two-foot running jump or any jump with more than one direction of movement. But guess what? Everybody's only ever comfortable with movements that has one directions. And I also haven't talked about anything in the angular momentum domain, right? There's also impulse momentum in the angular momentum domain as well. So now it is important to train your body's ability to brake, obviously, but you cannot say that right after you say you want to increase braking impulse, okay? Braking abilities is an aspect of the braking impulse. Dan Back Jump Science actually summarizes it really well in my comment, which basically says that is there a disconnect between training a physical capability, aka braking abilities, versus manipulating technique to create a particular output? I wouldn't even say manipulating the technique. It's really identifying what's actually happening in the movement